Oh, those buggers can piss off. They come in here to our prestigious gathering of elites and think that they can dance. Who do they think they are, strolling in with their suspenders, flipping over metal trays and playing the bloody drumsticks on them? Oh, sure. I bet they're beside themselves right now thinking they won that battle. I didn't lose, I surrendered with grace. Something those wankers don't have the slightest idea of. This is
Jesus. Of all things I expected in this synopsis, that was not one. That was not on my bingo card.
I'm telling a story. Like, what happened after the battle?
I thought you were going to say some like proverb in Hindi, then translate it, and then say some like friendship related thing.
That was like 10 episodes ago.
Yeah.
Now I think I've just gone, I'm unplugged now. I'm going to introduce the podcast first. Welcome to Movies That Changed Us. I'm Altaf.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're going to explore how RRR changed us. If you're listening to us on Spotify or wherever you listen to our podcast, know that you can also watch us on YouTube at Movies That Changed Us.
And we do also have a Patreon, and if anyone enjoys and wants to support the podcast, we also put up weekly commentary tracks where we watch movies and talk over them, and you can listen along with us. This week, what we're about to shoot after this is The Avengers Infinity War. So that'll be pretty fun.
Not shoot, record.
Or record, yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we added Infinity War because as we were watching Guardians 2, we were just like, man, remember when all these movies used to just be amazing? Let's just do Infinity War. And then you were just like, if even one person in the comment section for this commentary says to do Infinity War, we'll do it. And 2 people did.
yeah, so we're going to do it now.
And we're going to finish it off with Volume 3 still of Guardians. But just know that it's probably there now.
Yeah.
I want to shout out that guy really quickly. Just because, like, for some reason it was really hard to find what that actor's name was, and in the IMDb he's not, like, he doesn't have a name in the credits. The character doesn't have a name in the credits, and so I finally found him by looking through every British officer that was listed in the IMDb and finally finding the one that looks like him. His name is Daniel O'Kane. In the 6 minutes of screen time he's fucking electric. He does everything he's supposed to. It's a thankless role, and like the shot of him being like, what is this? This is filth and everything is so, that's been gift. Like, it's so I want that actor to know we appreciate your work.
Yeah, for all you went through.
Again, I'm going to say
you showed up for this movie.
I'm going to say his name again, Daniel O'Kane, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people just know him as White Guy in Natu Natu.
Yeah.
And Daniel O'Kane, I think he was just brilliant.
Sure, yeah, he was great.
So special shout out to him. But yeah. I'm glad we're doing this movie.
Yeah. This is a movie that's been very highly requested for us, and I feel bad we haven't reacted to it. But
you mean in our main reaction?
In our reaction channel, yeah, it's been highly requested. I think probably after Kung Fu Hustle is when people were like, "Oh, if you like that, you guys should do RRR," and that's when kind of RRR was really picking up. And I think, it's one of those movies that we just sort of watched on our own. And I think it was the length that made it so daunting.
Well, for me, and we'll get into this, it was I watched it because I was going to watch it anyways. I was really excited for this movie to come out, because this director, his previous work was the Bahubali movies, which were really groundbreaking in their own right. And so this was his next movie. It's like James Cameron coming out with a new movie or George Miller coming out with a new movie. You're going to get to see something special. I would have saved it for a reaction. I just had no idea this movie would blow up in America the way it did.
Yeah, because you're much more accustomed to just watching Indian movies on your own.
Because I am Indian. I have Indian immigrant parents. I grew up with Indian movies. Indian movies were the beginning of my love affair to cinema. The way some people grew up with Goonies or just those childhood classics. I grew up with Indian movies because that's how I began to love movies.
Yeah, and I remember we had a conversation though when this movie was blowing up, because I hadn't seen it yet, but you've already seen it. And I think we distinctly chose not to react to it for a couple of reasons, but I think the biggest reason was the length. It would have taken forever to edit, and a lot of people still did it. And I don't know, I kind of regret it. I kind of wish we did, because it would have made a great video.
I thought a lot about it because I was like, okay, I've seen it, Chris hasn't. This would be great too, showing you RRR or whatever. The framing of that would just be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, we ended up just watching it on our own. I showed it to you. It was a great time. I want to talk about beginnings. Specifically, I want to start off with my beginning with Indian movies. Growing up, my dad and my mom obviously showed me a lot of Indian movies. What's surprising though is that I had a lot of like Indian friends with a similar backstory. They were born and raised in America, but they had parents that had immigrated overseas, you know? And a lot of like my Indian friends or even Pakistani friends were, I wouldn't say ashamed of their culture, but when it came to movies, they didn't like watching Indian movies. They thought they were cringy or they thought they were like too long or whatever. So it was a weird thing for me that even with my Indian friends, they didn't like watching Bollywood or Indian movies in general. I want to clarify, I didn't grow up with Telugu cinema, like the way that RRR is a Telugu movie. I grew up with Bollywood. So that's my primary experience. But so I truly felt alone in my love for Bollywood. Like obviously, I grew like was in Knoxville, Tennessee, so nobody in there like in my school watched Bollywood movies, and none of my Indian friends watch Bollywood movies.
So you were just kind of on your own, enjoying them.
For me, I was like, I have so much love. These are the movies when I was like up until like probably high school. Those would be the movies that I would actually rewatch at home.
Did you like seek them out, or was it mostly family showing them to you?
Family showed them to me, but then those obviously, like my dad showed me a lot of older movies, but also me and my dad connected a lot through like Indian movie stars. Like Salman Khan was a favorite of both of ours.
Sure.
Shah Rukh Khan is obviously huge. And then also just going to movie theaters with my family. Going to movie theaters with my parents would mostly be, if we wouldn't go see American movies together, we would mostly go see Indian movies together. So that all being said, I never had like a friend of mine that was like, understood and had like an appreciation for Bollywood the way I did, us outside of my family. And then like I moved to LA 2017. I meet you. We've shared that story many times. But there was a specific moment very, very early on in our friendship.
I know where this is going.
Where you're like, oh yeah, I've seen Kuch Kuch Hota Hai.
No, I think I brought it up on my own as a joke where I said like, oh, let's watch Kuch Kuch Hota Hai or something like that over text. Because like, okay, I think we were in a car in like an Uber together, and I was in the front seat, and you and another friend are in the back seat. And I think I texted it to you privately, and then like quietly as a joke. And then you're like, oh, bullshit. You just Googled like the first Bollywood movie that comes to mind. Because for those listeners who don't know, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai is like a huge Bollywood movie.
Yeah, it's a huge 90s classic. I would look at it as the way people look at Grease. It's like a coming of age romance, drama, comedy, epic. Like it's what if you are my age, you grew up with that movie.
Yeah. And it's a great fucking movie. So I recommend it to anyone that hasn't seen it. But I texted it to you, and you just thought I Googled it and was just trolling you because you're Indian or something like that. And and you're like, okay, what's it about? And I was like, oh, well, I remember because I have seen it. And I was like, it's about a love triangle, and there's like this guy in college, but his wife died in the future. And you're like, what the fuck?
And it was a big moment because I was like, I already knew you and I were going to be very close friends, but it was that moment where it kind of just solidified it for me. Where I was like, "Whoa, he's a real one." Like,
and I'm not like and I'm not an Indian movie fiend at all. Like that's at the time that was the only one I've seen, and I just happened to have seen it in school when I was like 11 when we were studying like world cultures.
I've shown you a couple now, obviously RRR, but I've also shown you Three Idiots. Which is a big one. I've shown you. We watched Jawan together, the Shah Rukh Khan movie that came out last year. But we're like you're familiar with it. You're not obviously fluent in a lot of Indian cinema, but you were close enough to it where I was like, man, that's amazing.
Well, I also remember a while ago before our Nice Dude Movie Night channel became a full-time reaction channel, we did a small little video where you showed me a bunch of random Bollywood scenes.
Well, I showed you Bollywood action sequences.
Yeah.
And I will say at the time, RRR hadn't come out. So this was like 2019.
Yeah.
And I showed you scenes from Singham, which the lead actor in Singham is the guy who plays Raju's dad.
Yeah.
Ajay Devgan. And I showed you a scene from Simba. And it was my goal was to be like, look at like, this is the hyper like exaggerated action sequences in Bollywood cinema.
Then RRR came out.
But
everyone knew about it.
Well, that's what I'm leading to, is that you have to understand how wild of an experience it was for me. I mean, you saw it firsthand, me experiencing this, because at the time we were roommates, of just like RR came out. I was excited for it because I knew the director's previous work, and he's revolutionized Indian cinema to a whole new level already.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he was a Telugu filmmaker and he crossed boundaries to all of India, not just the Telugu industry. that hadn't really happened that much before. And so that was a huge thing. So I was like, okay, RRR's coming out. Two of these actors are like some of the biggest movie stars in India. And I was excited for it. I knew India was excited for it. I knew like the Eastern Hemisphere was excited for it.
Sure.
But the fact that it blew up in America the way
West,
it did,
yeah,
it was such a mind-blowing experience for me.
yeah, because I think in my entire lifetime, I've never just had an Indian movie come into my crosshairs the same way this one did.
There's been Indian movies that have like cross boundaries in some ways when it comes to like the Oscars, like Lagan is a big one where Lagan is like a 3 hour, like, I don't know if it's 3 hours, but it's an epic about these group of villagers that, are being taxed heavily by the British, and they make a deal with the British that will play cricket with you, and if we win the cricket match, then you will forego all of our taxes.
Got it.
And so it's like a form of British rebellion movie through the eyes of cricket. It's a great.
That sounds fun. Yeah,
it's an
I wanna watch
amazing
that.
classic Indian movie that was nominated for an Academy. It was like the first Bollywood movie that was nominated.
Was it nominated for Best Picture straight up, or was it nominated
International.
for Best International? Okay.
Yeah, and so that was like an example that we had, that Lagan crossed boundaries in that way.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like populist cinema, like mainstream culture, the way this movie did, where like people were packing the TCL Chinese Theater, which is like if you don't live in LA, is a huge IMAX theater.
Yeah, I mean, constantly heard from Americans, like, oh, you got to watch RRR. Even like when I was working in the day job I was working at the time, I had coworkers like, oh, did you see RRR yet? Like, I had people I knew, and it just, because like I knew about it first and foremost because of you. You just told me about it and were interested in watching it and all that. But yeah, the way it blew up, though, I remember hearing about it from like Americans, and you're American too. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying like, non-Indian Americans.
Yeah, no, totally. And it really was like a moment in time. And I think it was just this perfect moment of 2022. People were like just now getting used to coming back to the movie theaters. You know what I mean? And there was also this period of Marvel fatigue which we're arguably still kind of going through, but like this feeling of like, okay, the stuff that we all used to show up at the theater for to see spectacle is kind of withering away in front of us. It's not as exciting as it used to be. It's never going to get to the end game heights again. And we kind of want something original. This was the same year that Top Gun Maverick came out, and the whole thing people kept saying about Top Gun Maverick, it's a real movie. And then Everything Everywhere All at Once came out this year.
Yeah.
These were movies where people were like, this is what we want. This is what we've been missing. And when RRR came out, it was this experience that people had where just like, oh my God, this is what blockbuster movies can be. They can be original stories with big movie stars and sequences that we've never seen before.
Yeah. I mean, every scene in this movie feels like a third act to another movie. Like literally every scene feels like that. Like right down to the introduction to Raju. When he beats the shit out of that whole sea of people to catch that one dude that they told him to catch.
Yeah.
Like every scene feels like it could be an ending to another movie.
Totally. I thought a lot about Fury Road in that way too. Like Fury Road, I remember when it came out 2015, it was this feeling of like, holy shit.
Yeah.
We didn't know this could still happen in movies, or like we didn't know this was possible. And you're seeing things you've never seen. And Fury Road feels like a one big third act in that way.
Yeah.
And RRR is kind of doing the same thing. I thought it was interesting thinking a lot about George Miller and S.S. Rajamouli in a similar way.
Yeah. There definitely are similarities in terms of like what they value in spectacle. And it has that same kind of blend of like, it's super over the top, but the emotions are all there.
I was watching last night this behind the scenes of Furiosa, the stowaway sequence, which is the sequence of Furiosa. It's a sequence that keeps getting shared online when they basically from the bike parachute up in the sky. George Miller in the beginning of the behind the scenes, which I would highly encourage everyone to watch. It's fascinating. Talked about how like he thinks action is the best form of film language, because it can reveal character in a way that you've never seen before in the most propulsive way. And I was thinking of how RRR does the exact same thing, where RRR shows these fantastical big sequences, but it reveals a lot about character and motivations through these insane things that you've never seen before.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to see that though, because yeah, like you said, action is probably one of the most important ways to do it. I think it's the simplest and kind of purest way to see how people act under pressure, because that's the nature of action, right? Is people like having to do impulsive things in the heat of the moment and improvise, and like that's when it's most exciting to watch, you know?
Yeah.
And like, you know, it goes all the way back to Indiana Jones. When he does the crazy thing, you can tell he's always scared to do it, but he just does it anyway because he has to. You
Yeah.
know? Or vice versa, if someone freezes up and is too scared, you know, if they're running and they don't jump, you know, you learn about that person really quickly, quicker than any dialogue scene can do.
The shot I always think of when you brought up Indiana Jones, the shot I always think of in Raiders of the Lost Ark is like towards the beginning of the movie, the whole boulder chase sequence. But when he jumps from the cliff, holds onto the branch breaks. But before the branch breaks, he has a little laugh to himself, like he did it, and then it breaks. And it's like, that's the movie.
Yeah.
And in the same way, like in Raju's introduction, where he has to fight the sea of people, there's that moment where the entire crowd is like pushing the fence backwards. All the police officers stand down. He's the only one standing.
Yeah.
And it's just this one shot. And you see the reflection through his eyes of all these people. And it feels like these are big swings. These are big, big swings. But it's telling a story of this guy will do anything for his mission. But then there's also this mystery of like an Indian officer working with the British, like really, really brutally beating up all his fellow Indian men to get this one guy. Why? And this is our movie star. Why are we like... I also am rooting for him in a way, but I don't know why yet.
You're definitely fascinated by him right in the beginning, and he stays that way throughout the whole movie. He definitely has the most like complex arc, you know, like between the two characters.
But I think it's kind of genius to just be like, we don't know why he's doing these things yet. And obviously when they meet and they become friends and you see like the heart that he has, you don't want him to do the bad thing even more, because now you care about him.
Yeah, because I think when you first watch it, at least for me, you know, I think a lot of people were expecting like, oh, is he going to be the guy who changes sides, who has that arc where he realizes that he's working for the wrong side? But then obviously halfway through the movie you realize, oh, he's always been a good guy, but he has to just prove his loyalty to the bad guys so he can do the greater good, essentially, of giving the weapons to his village.
He learned something from Beam, which is basically like Beam can inspire people through a song. Beam can inspire people through his emotions. And he realizes like there is good in that as well, rather than just going with straight furiosity.
Well, yeah, I forgot how exactly he phrased it, but it's not just burning down your enemies, it's also lighting a fire in people's hearts.
Yeah. So talking about Beam and Raju, this movie is not only extremely masculine, filled with action, but it is one of the most beautiful odes to like friendship.
Yeah.
In a way that it's not embarrassed about at all.
Oh yeah, no, there's not any of those moments where they awkwardly hug and are like, you know, it's not like Grease where they try to play it off. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's another thing that a lot of people, it was kind of funny. I was like observing everyone around the world figure this movie out.
Yeah.
Where they were so shocked by like the sincerity of this movie.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get ahead of myself because I want to talk about their friendship montage and all that stuff. But I think it's going to be hard to talk about this movie because there's like 90 like things that happen in this movie of just like, I've never seen this before.
Yes, we cannot possibly cover every detailed beat in this movie, but we're going to try to capture the essence of it in the time that we have. And if anyone's seen this, I mean, I'm sure most people listening have seen this movie already. You know what the fucking deal is. You know how we feel about the action scenes. They're all awesome. They're all insane.
So I want to talk about this movie through the lens of basically 4 set pieces. I've prepared heavily for this podcast.
Yeah. No, it's good because you do have a unique perspective on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like we're a couple white guys just being like, this movie is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a million of those out there.
Yeah.
But you actually do have a take on it because you did grow up with Indian cinema and you have a lens of like stuff that's normally, you know, there and stuff that isn't expected.
And stuff, to be frank, that is still like... I think the thing that people don't think about often, at least people who are not familiar with Indian cinema, because it was really funny seeing like some of my favorite movie podcasters, reviewers, or personalities on the internet start their reviews for RRR being like, I'm a blank slate on Indian movies.
Yeah.
I think that's insane because this is like one of the biggest film industries in the world. And I just still can't believe how everyone just had a blind eye on it.
Yeah.
For years. Like, it's so mind-blowing to me.
And it's like a whole separate world in itself.
It's like people just not knowing about Korean cinema. And I mean, there was a time when that was the case. I'm sure movies like Old Boy and now Parasite
Train to Busan
have broken that barrier. And there's still like, I think you brought it up earlier where like off mic, you were saying something about Americans not being great with foreign language movies.
Yeah, it's very, very true. I think, just to repeat that, I think Americans are so accustomed to having movies in their language, because we speak English and we see movies in English and we go with it. Other countries are used to seeing movies that are in English with subtitles, so it's easier to ask international audiences to watch movies with subtitles. But here, Americans are much more like, I don't feel like reading.
Yeah, it's so interesting. But basically, I want to go through this movie through 4 set pieces. The saving the kid train sequence, which is basically, I put in parentheses my note, it's their meet cute.
Yeah.
The Natu Natu dance, the prison break piggyback action sequence.
Of course.
Just saying that brings like joy to me.
The piggyback action sequence.
And the final act.
Okay, cool.
Like the jungle fight.
Yeah. That bow and arrows and flames and all that shit.
So let's start with them meeting. And I think through that, we can talk a little bit of what this movie does with friendship. I also want to add the public flogging sequence.
Okay.
Because I think that is
it's one of the most important scenes.
It's also groundbreaking in storytelling. I feel like a lot of people saw that scene who are not familiar with Indian cinema. Were just like, you can do this. That is crazy. Anyways, so let's talk about how they met. And then through that, we can talk about how this movie deals with friendship.
Okay.
So I want to know your feeling of watching this, because you also watched this last night with your girlfriend who hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of stuff to say about this, but I want to know your perspective, because it was really funny seeing people who, I've shown this to many people now who haven't seen Indian movies before, and just that interaction between Raju and, at the time, Akhtar. We don't know he's Beam yet, but at the time, Akhtar, kind of just from far apart, waving to each other, not saying anything to each other, and just understanding. How do you feel when you see a scene like that? Like when you saw it for the first time, what did you feel?
I mean, the whole time I was kind of laughing my ass off at how crazy it all was, and laughing in a good way, not laughing at it, but oh my God, they're doing this the entire way through, And I think the energy behind just giving each other a look and this pays off towards the end of the movie, but just giving each other a look and a couple little hand gestures and reading each other and getting it, is a very real universal thing when you meet someone that you gel with. You know what I mean?
In a much smaller scale, we were talking about this with Superbad.
Yeah.
In Superbad, you and I discussed a lot about how sometimes in life you'll meet someone where you just connect on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to say much. You can say things in a different way than you would talk to anyone else, and they would just understand.
Yeah, sometimes all it takes is a couple exchanges. I mean, I think it's like the Step Brothers thing. Did we just become best friends? Sometimes it doesn't take long for people to just realize oh shit, okay, cool, you're me,
And this movie is doing that
in the most extreme way possible.
Throughout the entire movie, it does those things. It has those swings where you're like, these guys are connecting in a way, but it's externalizing it in the biggest format.
Well, that's what makes the, whatever you want to call it, the absurd, over-the-top nature of the action work so well, is that the emotions are so big, and it's all done, like you said, through characterization. It all works because there's a point to it. It's not like it's just there for cheap spectacle, because anyone can just have a scene where someone's going around punching people and they go flying back. It's whatever. But when you do it through the lens of two people vibing with each other and working together to save someone, and they're on opposite teams, you know what I mean? There's actual substance to it. There's subtext to it going on.
We've seen 30 minutes of movie too,
exactly.
Where we've established that these guys are so headstrong in the goal that they have the utmost ambition and courage to fulfill their goal.
Yeah.
This guy will yell back at a tiger when the tiger's roaring at him, and this guy will fight a sea of people to get to one person, And so we understand how, even though we don't fully get why they're doing what they do, maybe with Akhtar we do, and Raju it's very complicated, but we understand them. And so even when they're doing shit like jumping off the bridge and everything, we believe that they can do it because the movie has done the groundwork.
Exactly. Yeah, it set that example for how they are as individuals. So it sets up what they can accomplish if they work together. And in 5 minutes, they do this elaborate scheme to save this kid.
And it pays off at the end when in the jungle, they're so synchronized in their fighting.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get at, the way it pays off when they're on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
Or when he's on the motorcycle and Raju's on the horse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Raju throws him the flag. He wets the flag beforehand, but he throws in the flag. This is the thing where I'm just like, why is there a flag there? What's it? At first, when I saw the flag, I'm like, oh, this is some patriotic bullshit. Like they're just showing like, look, he's holding the Indian flag or whatever. And then he throws in the flag, wraps it around, and you're like, oh!
Yeah, and the pendulum like swings him into flames and the flag protects him.
It's like you're watching a silent movie.
Oh yeah, well, I think that's why this movie's also so like accessible internationally too, and probably why it hit so hard for Americans as well. Because there's dialogue, of course there is, and there's a lot of good dialogue moments, but a lot of it is done through just the characterization and the action.
Okay, so you want to talk about Natu Natu?
I mean, fuck yeah.
So this is the thing that a lot of people expect from Indian cinema. A lot of people, every time they talk about Bollywood or whatever, just Indian cinema in general, I'm going to mention Bollywood a lot because that's a thing I grew up with. They are like, oh, those are the movies, those are the long 3-hour movies with a lot of songs and dancing. And it's just like, so this is the thing that everyone knew was going to happen. This wasn't a surprise per se.
Yeah, and it's used in a lot of the promotional material too. You know, from what I remember, it's usually them with the suspenders or both them like in, you know, freeze frame dancing too.
Well, this song became a huge hit on TikTok.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it was. I remember that.
That one sequence where they're arm in arm and they're moving their legs at the same time. They're so synchronized. That step became viral before the movie came out.
Yeah.
And so it was a kind of a sensation. People were excited, but that's the Indian audience. I got to stress that. Americans, it was a shock to see the choreography be that great. I want to also stress the fact that like, this choreography is insane for us as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, because everyone came out of this movie with the action and also the dancing of just being like, I have a blank slate on Indian movies, but if this is what I can expect, then sign me up. And they probably never saw another Indian movie again. But also the fact that like a lot of Indian film critics wrote that this is some of the best choreography they've seen in Indian cinema.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like an unrealistic depiction almost if people go in expecting all Indian movies to have that level of choreography, because you know it's like you know how like when you talk about what British people say about Monty Python, where it's like, yeah, no, they're great, but that doesn't define all of what it is. Like, don't go in expecting every British comedy skit to be like Monty Python.
You saw Monty Python in the British office and now you think British comedy's top tier, and it's like,
yeah,
we have a lot of other shit too, like anywhere else.
Exactly there's different flavors everywhere, and so I think yeah.
This song is also telling a story, which is great. There's this makeover sequence, which is, I think, another great example of this movie is so not embarrassed of what it is. Because it is sincere. It's super cheesy, but he's like, what are you going to wear? And he's like, I'm just wearing this. And then he takes some hair product, puts it on him. And it's like this sweet, like, music playing. Yeah. There's no jokes there. And I think people were genuinely kind of shocked at how open-hearted this movie is about that.
Yeah, it's like, it's endearing, but, you know, it is like, it's very wholesome, and I think people laugh not like at the movie's expense, like, oh, that's lame that they're being all open. I think it's more from a place of like, wow, not a lot of men are that comfortable with each other to that level, and it's kind of endearing to see.
Because this movie's doing both. It's being a super masculine bro movie of these guys like fighting tigers and like fighting a sea of men, but then also it's just these two men who fell in love with each other.
Yeah,
you know, they both enter with suits on. And I remember being in the theater and everyone just erupts in applause when you see them because they just look great. And it's just this slow-mo walk of both the Beam's makeover with the suit. Jenny's like, oh, you want to dance? I can see that you want to dance. She takes Beam to the dance floor. This British guy who I shouted out earlier in the episode is like disgusted by it. Can't believe it. Grabs the girl, takes her to dance, and trips Beam, flips over the Indian man carrying the metal tray, and he's there's an Indian server that's carrying a metal tray, flips over the metal tray starts rolling. Now I think I saw this movie for the first time at home on Netflix, because at the time, like, it got on Netflix pretty early after it had to run its theaters. And I think the thing that happened is, like, when a lot of Americans saw it on Netflix, they suddenly had this urge to just be like, we gotta see this in theaters. What the fuck? And so they realized the phenomenon that was happening. And then the studio put this out in a lot of American theaters. The theater that I went to in the Alamo to go see it when it got rescreened again that same year, I noticed a lot of people, it was their first time watching it. I could tell.
Yeah.
There was some conversation happening around me before the movie. Primarily all white people watching this
That's
too.
awesome.
Again, an insane thing for me. Like from what the context that I gave earlier in this episode of me feeling so lonely with Indian cinema, it was just an insane feeling being wow, oh my God.
Yeah. Did it change your experience in terms of like, you know, watching it, were you also half watching how everyone else was responding? Like, hey, I've never been in this type of environment before. And, you know, did it kind of alter, you know, the way you looked at it? Or was there anything like new out of it? Like, did they react to something that you wouldn't have reacted to?
Well, they were laughing at certain moments that like I wouldn't laugh at.
Okay.
Like the moments where they're just like, you know, where they're eating on the ground and he's just looking at him and he remembers his brother and he's like, never mind. And like you could see the audience kind of chuckle. And it's just that it's the fact that they can't like it was interesting seeing them because they haven't digested something this wholesome and sincere in a while that they can't help but laugh because it's just like, oh my God, this movie is so open-hearted.
Well, it's so open-hearted, but also, yeah, like you even mentioned, it has like this balance of him yelling at a tiger, you know, like it has like the most over-the-top manly action, but also has some of the most like open-hearted, you know, non-manly scenes, if you want to just phrase it that way.
Which
whatever you want to call it, but you get what I'm saying. It has like the polar opposite of what you would expect from a movie like this.
Totally.
And also on the contrary though, did you react to anything that no one else got too? Like, was there like, you know, like, because I know there are big actors that appeared in it later. Was there anything that like you might have seen that the audience didn't see?
Well, I was super affected by the flashback of Raju's dad, and I really loved Ajay Devgan's performance, and I thought he was super effective. And that's a sequence where I feel like a lot of people start to check out. And I think it's because you get this high of the whole like invasion sequence with the animals, and then we go to this flashback. And it's like this people are kind of winding down a little bit. And in the theater and then also like showing people at home, I can see people kind of being like kind of exhausted. And it takes a second for the movie to build back up again. But that's like one of my favorite sequences, that flashback. So it was
it's a great, even watching it again too.
It's so emotionally affecting.
Yeah.
But so that was one thing. Going back to the metal plate rolling. You don't understand the feeling of being in a theater and just seeing people figure out what's happening, because it keeps, as the British guy is showing him the flamingo, the salsa, and all these dance, and he looks like a fucking goofball. That's why I said earlier, it's a completely thankless role. He looks like insane.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is dance. And it keeps cutting back to the metal plate, the audience slowly realizing what's going to happen. And Raju kicks the plate.
Yeah.
There's many things that happen now that you don't think are going to happen. The metal plate goes, and he's like, oh, he's kicking the metal plate to show defiance. The metal plate lands on the drums. He is now holding drumsticks and starting that beat.
He starts wailing on him, yeah.
Da 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 da. And like that's a beat, that's a rhythm that you hear throughout the entire movie, and that's how they like find each other in the prison break.
Yeah, that's how it pays off when they're knocking on the ground too.
They knock on the ground. That's when Raju gets bitten by the snake, and he does that rhythm again, and Beam hears it and knows his friend's in trouble. It's like it comes back.
Yeah.
And it's just like their way of connecting now. He starts doing the drums, cuts to Beam in a close-up being like, my friend's here to get me. And they nod at each other. And it's like the most sexual chemistry I've ever seen between two men. It's so electric in the best way.
I know.
And it's just like, I got you, my guy. Like, and then he starts to roll the drums, flips the drumsticks. The black guy playing the drums catches it, and he's excited. And it notably is cutting to different minorities that are at the party. The black guy playing the drums, the Indian men like putting their heads down.
Yeah.
It's like all these people in the face of oppression, and the way they fight it is through dance and sing with us.
Yeah.
That's the song. It's just like, forget about everything for a small moment and dance and sing with us. And if you dance and sing with us, you'll see how special our culture is. And that's what the song is too. Like if you read the lyrics, it's a lot about just like, do this dance. Don't dance how you dance. See how we dance. And when we dance, it breaks the ground. It's thunderous to the point where like towards the last sequence, the camera's shaking.
Yeah.
Because it's like so powerful. And it gets me emotional talking about it, because it is something that like I experience all the time. It's just like the way Indians dance is this feeling of, it's like this thunderous explosion on the floor.
Yeah.
It's not just like a simple like bob and weave. It is like
Yeah,
wild.
ain't no sprinkler.
Yeah, it's like it is unabashed like expression. And so the fact that the song is about that is so special.
Yeah, I mean it's cool because it's a way of like, because the movie's obviously super patriotic, which is just, there's a ton of political themes going on with
Which
it.
I'm just going to jump in and say really quickly, I am not as privy to the politics and the complications that come with the politics of this movie. I know like critics from India have criticized this movie for being very propaganda-y, especially how it deals with like guns and weapons and stuff like that. I'm not going to pretend to know more about that than I do.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to jump in and acknowledge that that's a fair criticism if you have that.
Well, yeah, and Raju and Beam are also real people.
They're
too.
real freedom fighters who never met in real life.
Exactly. Yeah, they had completely different backgrounds and different lives, but this is kind of a, I think
It's the closest thing to like Inglourious Basterds.
exactly.
Or something.
Didn't he say that too? That he was inspired by that, by like that kind of like revisionist history of like, ooh, what if this happened?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
And so, it's good to acknowledge it. But I do think though, at that scene in particular though, is probably a.
I'm sorry. Okay,
I heard that in my headphones. It was a big old.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it on the podcast. We can keep this in. There was a good 9-minute chunk where I just forgot to turn on the camera facing Chris, and now I'm just super paranoid that I did it again. So that's why I had to check. So sorry. What were you saying?
Okay, but I was just saying, like, it's really cool to see because like dance is something that's so universal, right? Like every culture dances. Whether some is considered better than others and whatever, right? But every culture has some sort of universal artistic form of dance. And so it's a really good and simple way to see and empathize with another culture.
Yeah.
And celebrate it.
Because this scene in so many movies could have just been Raju punching that guy in the face.
Yeah.
Be like, don't talk to my friend like that. But instead, he's just like, not salsa, not flamenco, my brother. Do you know Natu? Which is like in the Telugu version, it's Natu. And the Hindi version that's on Netflix, it's Desi Nach. And it's just this feeling of like, listen, man, this is how we dance.
Yeah, because, well, especially because, the British guy's acting like his form of dance is like classier and more technically trained, And they're like, you haven't even bothered learning our dances. Don't act like yours are better than ours. And then like it was a way of celebrating and hyping up all, like you said, all the minorities and all the people oppressed.
Well, there's that moment where like he decides to this British officer decides to come in and join and rolls up his sleeves and is like, let's do it. And Raju, instead of just pushing him away, he gives him a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Which that thumbs up gif has become like a big gif now. Like,
oh, is it really?
Oh, huge.
I haven't seen any RRR gifs, so I'm like,
If I remember when RRR was coming on Twitter, it's like just saw RRR and everyone would share that gif. But like he just gives him a thumbs up. He's like, all right, come on, let's see what you got.
Let's go.
And it's this feeling of the union of just like, we're not okay. Y'all are still oppressive, but in this moment, let's just dance.
Yeah.
And it's also a way of them to fight back through their dance and song. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
The choreography is just, I don't know what to tell you. It's something I've never seen on screen before.
Yeah.
Like we've seen these big action set pieces where we're just like mind blown, but even the way they dance, like they're so synchronized.
It's kind of insane. Like it almost looks digitally altered or something like that.
There are a few things that they did.
Well, I was just saying, I wouldn't doubt that it's been sped up or the frame rate's a little funky. Right, there's something going on there where it looks almost non-human.
So what they did was the choreography is all real, and obviously they did do that. They rehearse like crazy, and obviously Indian movie stars are trained to dance because that they're required to do stuff like that. And these are some of the biggest movie stars that have both respectively worked with this director before.
Gotcha.
So they have experience in working with his like insane demands. The choreographer's name is Prem Rakshit. I just want to shout him out. There's a great a video of, how there's Vanity Fair will put out those videos of director breaks down shooting a scene. What was cool is that they got SS Rajamouli to break down the Natu Natu scene, which was another big thing. It was like they got an Indian director to do one of these videos. It was really cool.
Does he speak English or was it in subtitles?
He speaks English, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's fairly fluent in English.
Right on.
But he was talking about that scene, and there were some moments where they literally rotoscoped them separately and timed it to where they were doing these steps at the exact same time.
Got it. Okay.
So on set, they were trying to synchronize as much as possible, but in the edit, they fudged with it a little bit to make it even more synchronized.
Yeah.
And his reasoning for that is that later on in the movie, we're going to see them do things where they're so in sync that in this dance, you need to see them in sync in this way so it pays off.
Yeah, you need to believe it, that these two are kind of one and the same.
That's what I love about this movie. It's so like exaggerated and hyperbolic, and we're seeing humans do things we've never seen before. But it's still, there's a point to all of it.
Yeah, there's an intention there for sure. You know, and like I said earlier, is that like, or I think I said, I can't remember if this is in the 9 minutes that we cut out or not. So we'll cut this if I already said it. But the over the top absurdity of the action is enhanced because these two people are, you know, on top of the world, you know, for each other, essentially.
I think maybe we can talk about that a little bit. It's just that this movie, like, kind of made me think about this time around. It was just like, when you find your person, your friend, someone that you can connect with and get on a wavelength in a way that you never have before, it can bring out the best in you. It can help you discover parts of you that you didn't know existed. And that's what this movie's a lot about, is like Raju having that arc of realizing like what Beam's true power is his emotional connection with his people.
Yeah.
And Beam like realizing that there's something worth fighting for bigger than himself, that he needs to save this girl, but there's also this bigger goal here of like the freedom of our people.
Yeah.
And he learns that from Raju. And it's just like, that's what true friends can do for each other.
Yeah. I think their dynamic is essentially, one is big picture, the other one's little picture.
Fire,
you know?
fire, and also fire and water.
Yeah.
And how they tackle things. And I like it also, when you believe in someone so much, it can give you the power to do the extraordinary for them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And this movie takes it to certain levels where they're doing things for each other that you would never even imagine.
Yeah, he's like charging through the forest or with, you know, piggyback riding him.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
But in a simpler and an everyday context between you and me, I think for you, like you especially, for me, I've like has brought out like a certain level of self-confidence that I didn't know I had, and a surety that like, we can do this. We can like talk about movies for a living and people will listen and people will watch, you know. I had a lot of insecurities about that kind of stuff too, early on. And I think for like me to you, I think you've expressed a lot too of just like, I'm someone that like that's pretty good about just starting things.
Yeah.
And you're good about perfecting them. And I feel like we become one in that way.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's definitely like, you know, we do have a weird, you know, polar opposite approach on things, but it makes us come together, you know, even if we occasionally clash on ideas and whatever, but we do make, you know, an electric team.
Yeah.
You know, which of us would you consider?
Well, I'm Beam and you're Raju. I think like,
no, I was saying, okay, fair enough. I was gonna say, which would you consider water? Which would you consider fire? You know, that's what I was gonna say.
It really switches.
Because it does switch. There are times when I can be fire. There are times when you can be fire, you know?
Yeah. It's what makes this work.
Yeah.
You know?
But you say you were Beam and I'm Raju?
Yeah. I just, at least I think of myself as more of like the sensitive one in turn, and like that's how I look at Beam. But at the same time, it's like you said, we switch so often.
Yeah. But you know, on the flip side, I mean, I'm not nearly as like fucking intense as Raju. But
well, yeah, if you want to take it literally.
Yeah. But I will say, like, I think I do see more big picture stuff than you do. You know, I think I'm good at like kind of pulling back the small things and kind of be like, okay, let's stay focused on what the bigger task at hand is.
Totally. Okay, do you want to talk before we get to the piggyback in the final act? Because the piggyback goes into the final act straight away. Like it's like we start with like him breaking him out of prison and then go straight to the jungle fight. Like it's like really quickly.
It just moves after that.
Do you want to talk about the flogging sequence?
Yeah.
So obviously Beam gets captured. Governor Scott's in town, played by Ray Stevenson, beautifully. Like, I mean, I do. It's funny. I do kind of want to shout out the white actors in this movie because
they play them so well. They're all so fucking evil.
in a great way, but like his presence is so powerful.
Yeah.
The way he shows up in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. Obviously the iconic. You know, what is the value of a bullet?
I'm gonna read it. I just have it.
You just have it written down. Okay, cool.
Do you comprehend the value of the bullet in your barrel? It was manufactured in an English factory using English metals. It crossed the 7 seas in an English vessel. By the time it reached the barrel of your gun, it cost £1. And you want to waste it on brown rubbish.
Yeah.
And it's a speech that carries through the entire movie. And it's a speech that immediately makes you hate him. But it's a speech that comes back in the flashback when he shows up. He has such a presence. It's like a great like scene chewing performance.
Yeah.
But his wife, played by Alison Doody, who was famously in Last Crusade,
Yeah.
she's the woman that both Sean Connery and Harrison Ford hooked up with. Remember?
Yeah, I never put that together.
How they were
That's so
Eskimo
funny.
brothers. Yeah.
Wait, did you? You might have even, because we did a commentary track recently on Last Crusade. You might have even said that during the recording too.
I might have mentioned
I just
it.
forgot. I just didn't put that together later.
I might have mentioned it. Yeah. But they basically like, we need to show people what happens when you defy the British Empire like this.
Yeah, they're
flog
trying to
him.
make an example out of Beam.
And Raju has to be the one that whips Beam.
Yeah, to get him to kneel and
By the
beg
way,
for mercy.
I just want to stress, we're not going to talk about the whole like invasion of the palace with all the animals.
yeah, we don't really need to. Like, it's already, everything that could be said has been said.
It's also, it's one of the most mind-blowing sequences ever. I don't know what else to say about it.
Yeah.
But they decide to like flog him publicly. And I think this is a true surprise. I said like Natu Natu is something that everyone comes to expect of the song and dance.
Yeah.
But I feel like people just didn't expect music to be used in this way.
Sure.
Of while he's being flogged, Beam starts singing a song after he feels a leaf hit his face. The leaf that reminds him of home. And home is what gives him strength and courage to fight through oppression. And while Beam is whipping him, he starts singing the Komaram Bimuro, that song.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to know what he's saying. But N.T. Rama Rao Jr., the actor, his eyes say it all.
Oh, their facial expressions the entire time are so fucking good. Like, better than anything I've ever seen. Like, the way they're able to stay in tune with what's going on emotionally. Like, they're always in line with what's happening.
Both Ram Charan, who plays Raju, and N.T. Rama Rao, who plays Beam.
Yeah, but everyone, though, even like the villagers, when the little kid gets shot and the mom screams, like the faces are so well done.
It's another reason why I think this movie registered so well off non-Indian language speaking people.
Exactly. Like, there's just something, they're so in tune. Like, their eyes water when they need to start watering. Like, everyone's so, I don't know how to describe it, but they're always there.
It's really big in the best way.
Yeah.
Because this is a big story, so you need big performances. And he starts singing a song, and that's what invigorates people to fight back. It's just it's beautiful, but it's also just like I feel like for people who are not used to watching Indian cinema in this way, it feels revolutionary. It feels like a new way to tell the story. We've all seen the scene of a guy, it's a cliche of a guy getting tortured but smiling back, not taking the shit. But you can hurt me all you want, you can never hurt my spirit. We've all seen that scene. But to do it through him singing a song, it at first when you're watching it, it's uncomfortable, but then it feels beautiful, and then it feels like inspiring.
Yeah, because the torture gets more brutal as he's singing too. But he basically, I don't know what the actual lyrics are. I can't remember, but I remember the essence of it is like, you think you can hurt this material body and take that away from me. But you can't take away what's inside. Essentially,
you can't. There's something also along the lines of you can't call yourself a man of nature if you get hurt by these whips and if you cry. If you shed tears, you can't call yourself a man of like the tribe or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's that shot of like the blood flowing into the woman's feet.
Yeah, and she steps away really quickly.
Yeah, and it's just beautiful. Like, that's like filmmaking.
Oh, yeah, and there's like a specific goal too. It's not like they're just generally torturing him, but they're trying to get him to kneel.
Yeah.
And Raju, on the other hand, doesn't want to keep hurting his friend. He doesn't want to kill him. He doesn't want to make a thing out of it. He's like, just kneel and like we'll get through this. He doesn't want to like reveal himself, obviously, but he is trying to just help his friend without helping him while he's like being forced to torture him.
Yeah.
And so there's like a specific tangible goal of getting him to kneel. So they're like stepping on his calves, trying to get him to step down. He just won't do it. And they end up stringing him up, putting the weights under his ankles. It gets really brutal.
And it's also that shot of like Beam looking right at Raju looking at Beam, and then Beam stepping forward to him before they have to pull him back. He's like, I am not going to turn back.
But that's a level of spirit that only Beam has that inspires Raju, essentially.
Yeah. Obviously, it motivates Raju to like help Beam escape with Mali, but Beam doesn't know that he's helping him escape. but Raju like confiscated all the guns, broke them so they couldn't shoot back, and he holds them back,
Yeah.
And it's like a true selfless act. Now it cuts to like months later,
Yeah. Yeah.
and another just beautiful movie theater moment that I will always remember is, along with many others in this movie, is the moment where they're just like, "Oh, we've starved him for days, sir."
Oh yeah, yeah. Of course. Oh, they're feeding him once a week. That's like the diet plan they gave him.
Oh, it's like him. Oh, much worse, sir.
Yeah.
He probably gnawing at his chains by now. And then like the frame rate slows down, and then you hear that like that music that's kind of plays during the like dum duck duck da da dum 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 duck duck, and that plays during the credits. Which I gotta say, like when it's playing during the credits of the music, it's just like shit. We're about to watch a movie.
I know, you're like heads bobbing. You're like, oh shit, let's go.
Music by M.M. Keeravani, who's the cousin of S.S. Rajamouli.
Okay.
Who won the Oscar for this movie for the music.
Okay, yeah.
It was like the first like Indian cinema movie to win an Oscar.
Oh, yeah, and it has the music, just to kind of quickly touch on the music, it has such a cool blend of, because the movie, it's a period piece, so it has a lot of traditional, and it's meant to feel patriotic.
Orchestral scores, yeah.
Yeah, but then it also has those like deep thumping basses that feel modern and badass and manly. It's very beefy.
It's like you'll get this growling like, whoa.
Yeah, like Raju has his own theme when he's like in his element. You know what I mean? When he's like getting scary.
Oh yeah. My favorite is like that second chase sequence where you're like, okay, we're now gonna get another second sequence, but Raju's just already there.
Yeah.
Anyways, it does this slow-mo, the music's pumping, and then you suddenly see Raju doing like pull-ups.
Yeah, like after being starved, he's like just doing pull-ups nonstop.
People just erupt.
Yeah.
If you're interested, look up TCL Chinese Theater RRR audience reactions.
Oh, I'm sure where people standing and going.
During the Natu Natu sequence, people just went up to the screen and started dancing. And they were dressed up in suspenders. And the director talked about, he's like, in India, this always happens. Yeah. But I was shocked that like Americans were doing this.
Yeah.
He was like, he even said like after he introduced them, like after the movie ended and he had a Q&A, he was just like, usually Indians are pretty rowdy. I didn't expect you guys to get rowdy like us Indians, And
but that's so cool though that a barrier has been broken.
The Chinese theater filled with white people.
Yeah, exactly. But that's so cool though. You know what I'm saying?
It's beautiful.
That experience can be translated, that it just proves that it's universal. You know what I mean? If people just weren't so closed off to that sort of thing.
So yeah, he's doing pull-ups. He gets and he basically makes a statement because it was revealed what he's looking at is the building, the Capitol building or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Where he's basically like, you can take away everything from me, but I'll always be fighting for my goal.
Yeah, it's like the essence of what a revolution is. It's fighting for an idea.
An idea is a bulletproof.
I know, right? I didn't even think about that part, but
Anyways, he gets moved from his cell to an underground cell, basically. And you're like, and his legs are broken now.
And you can hear that too when they drop him in that little cell. You can hear those little those
Which
noises.
That's another thing about the movie. All the violence, everything, you can feel it. Feel like you can hear the crunching of the bones. It's like it's all very palpable.
I remember just to jump in real quick on that. I remember the big moment when, because there's a lot of kind of shocking violence where you're like, oh God, that was a lot. In a good way, it's very satisfying to watch. But when Raju and Beam were fighting during the animal sequence,
yeah.
I remember at one point they were like doing kind of a UFC wrestling kind of sequence.
So cool. The sound drowns out. Yeah.
But then the way Beam picked him up while his legs were wrapped around his waist and then turned and slammed his head into like that statue.
Yeah.
I remember that was a moment I was like, oh fuck. Like that looked like it fucking hurt.
Yeah, I know. I remember when he's like punching him and Beam catches the fist each time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course. When he's holding him down.
I'm like, how did they fucking come up with this? It looks so cool. Anyways, Beam eventually finds out through Sita,
yes,
Ram's beloved, of what Raju has been fighting for. And we get that flashback. It's another thing that this movie does, which is it has a very unique way of telling its story, of revealing the character's motivations piece by piece, instead of giving this one long flashback, because we got one half of that flashback of him like fighting with his dad, but then it cuts out, goes to present day, and then when Sita finishes the story, you realize that Raju had to shoot his dad.
Yeah, with the dynamite and to blow up all the other soldiers.
Yeah, and you realize that's how he became the man who he became. It fades from the smoke to him.
Well, yeah, he clearly was raised in a very cold-blooded, get the job done kill
Yeah.
who you need to kill to, to achieve your goal.
Load, aim, shoot. Yeah.
Exactly. Load, aim, shoot is like the simplest way they summarize it.
Anyways, Beam realizes the story, and there's that small cut to Jennifer being like, okay, this is how you get to the prison.
Yeah.
It's my favorite, like, just like, oh, he still has a relationship with her.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, babe.
So I need to break out.
I know I just blew up your fucking fortress.
And I also knew your, like, I don't know, your parents.
And I kind of used you just so I can get in and find out where this little girl's being kept. But they, like I just I just want to see them do that to each other.
I know.
Listeners, I'm just wiggling my fingers.
Anyways, yeah, Beam decides to break out Raju from prison and gives him back the necklace. That moment when they're beating against the ground and you hear that music,
Yeah.
they both have tears in their eyes.
Well, because like we spent an hour of the movie of them being separate and after fighting and being on completely
yeah, it
different
is like a
ends.
true hour. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, thank God they're a team again, because you know that they can just fuck shit up when they're a team.
Their reunion feels so real.
Yeah.
It like feels like you've seen 3 different movies because like you feel like now you're watching the 3rd movie where they're finally reunited.
Yeah.
And gets him on his shoulders and they become truly one person.
Yeah, they become this like anthropomorphic monster, just killing everyone.
Yeah, I've never seen something like this.
Yeah. I mean, like, like we can nitpick the details of like, when he has the 2 rifles and is nailing them, it's just the spirit of it is so cool. The action's obviously awesome, but it's the spirit of it to me that makes it so timeless and memorable.
I've seen versions of all the different action set pieces that are shown in this movie. I've seen a guy beating up 100 people. I've seen animals being involved in action sequences in an impossible way. I've seen the UFC style fight in a different way. This movie does a lot of those things better than most movies. This scene, I've never seen something like this.
Yeah.
This is a true invention. And
Rakakuni.
But it's like a true, like a mind-blowing invention.
Yeah.
That takes so much confidence and you have to earn it. And this movie earns it so wholeheartedly that when they go on each other's shoulders, you have this moment where you can't help but laugh. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah, you just have a big fucking smile on your face while you watch it.
My favorite moment is when Beam helps him reload the guns.
Oh, sure.
When he's on the shoulders.
Yeah,
like,
when he then throws him back up.
Again, it's a moment worth watching. And like, if you go type in TCL Chinese Theater,
sure.
that fight, it's an amazing reaction and everyone losing their goddamn minds.
I love when they climb up the tower.
Yeah.
And then they like both work together to like swing through.
That shot of them swinging into the tower, that's like the last shot in the trailer. That was like coming this August, and then they cut to that shot, and you're just like, what the fuck?
That's awesome. I didn't know that because I think I went into this movie pretty blind.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that sequence then slowly transitions, not slowly, very quickly transitions to the final jungle fight.
Yeah.
And this is what the movie's building up to, is that now these 2 friends have come together, they're sharing one goal, and they've become so in sync that we are going to see a fight sequence where they are just not even talking to each other, but they know what each other's going to do.
They're just shredding through the soldiers.
To the point where Beam drinks a glass of water, and Ram is able to point the arrow between the fall of the water.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to know, before I start listing off shots that I really love, like, what do you think of this whole sequence, from the piggyback to the jungle fight? Like,
it's so satisfying, and it's meant to be just satisfying. Like, it's at a point where it just feels like all of it was earned because of everything they went through. Like I said, we spent a solid hour of them not working together, so you see them both more motivated than ever to finally put a stop to this whole thing.
Yeah, you feel like you're on a high when you're watching this sequence.
100%, yeah.
And it's like the song that's playing. If you read the subtitles, it's basically being like, this guy's fucking sick. Like, that's what I love about it. It is like, this guy is the best at what he does. I remember Patrick Willems, who I will credit in terms of the online film community, was a big part of like a non-Indian audience to push this movie.
Sure.
He was like one of the first people to talk about it online, like lionizing this movie in a great way. He also did a whole video where he went to India and learned more about Bollywood and consumed some of the biggest Bollywood hits, even though I know RRR is not a Bollywood movie, but learned more about Indian cinema in a way. But he was talking about how like that song that's playing under this final fight is funny because he kept thinking about like, what if like in a Marvel movie, Thor had that song where Thor's so cool, he has his hammer. You know?
I know, right?
I'm going to give you the desert island question again that I gave you in Austin Powers. A sequence, a moment in this jungle fight in this jungle fight that
Okay.
you would take with you on a desert island?
Oh, probably when Raju shoots the arrow through the tree and it almost hits the dude in the eye. Then Raju like goes and kicks the back of the arrow so it goes into his head. Remember that?
And then flips.
Yeah, and then flips and then shoots another arrow. Probably that moment.
It's amazing. The moment that makes me want to lift out of my seat. Like, I showed this movie to a couple of friends a few months ago that had never seen this movie, and they've been wanting to see it. And I'm
American friends?
like, American friends.
Okay.
And they've been wanting to see it. They missed the wave of 2022 when everyone was watching it. And I was like, okay, it's on Netflix. Let's watch it. Let's sit down. Let's have a party. And I was pretty good about it. I wasn't like talking over the movie. I was like, okay, I'm not even going to freak out. I'm going to be as calm as possible because I want them to have a singular experience. And the moment I'm going to take with me on the desert island because of how I reacted during this fifth rewatch was the motorcycle that doesn't have a person on it anymore is going towards Beam. Beam lifts it. It twirls in the sky. Beam catches it, swings it around and throws it. It is a moment that I want to stand up. It makes me want to, like, I am not.
Just vomit and just, it's so good.
But also just cry because I'm like, man, this is what movies are. This
Yeah.
is like, come on. Like, and I think like the high of that sequence isn't just him lifting a motorcycle. It's the fact that they earned that moment so hard. You know what I mean? It's the fact that like when he throws a guy against a branch, Ram catches that branch and like hits it with the other guy. Or when Ram like throws the arrow and hits the guy's back, picks up the arrow.
Yeah, it's like anyone can just put on screen the biggest explosion ever, or just, you know, one guy killing a bunch of people, whatever, you know, all that stuff. We've seen it all, but it takes a lot to put that level of creativity into it and still see something you've never seen.
Anyways, before I get even more hyperbolic, they like Ram is like, let's stop fighting these jackals and go towards the hunter. And that's what it says in the subtitles at least.
Yeah.
And Beam's like, yeah, I got you, bro. Hops on the bike, twirls it. Ram hops on the bike and hops onto the horse.
I know.
And he's like, yeah, bro, all the way.
And they just do a couple hand gestures, and then they set the motorcycle alight to launch through the window to blow up the dynamite of the building. It's like the craziest shit I've ever seen.
But it's all done through few hand gestures.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, you know, Beam. And he knows, oh yeah, light the motorcycle on fire and fling it through.
And swing on this branch so you don't die.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Beam gets all the weapons for Raja, and then but it cuts to a shot of Governor Scott looking up, and it's Allison Doody with her arm out, bloody, and she's dead. And
Yeah,
it's
and you
like,
see the henna tattoo on her hand still.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
from the opening scene.
it's good shit.
Yeah.
Well, you see all these weapons, and he's reminded of his dad. Basically, he like arrows down Governor Scott, catches the gun, like catches the bullet,
Yeah.
and
Because he was about to load his rifle, then he got hit, and then the bullet flung out of his hand.
and then he starts reciting the line back to him.
Yeah.
I'm just like, do you know the value of this bullet? Are you just gonna waste this? Give this to him, send it back to his heart or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, again, it was another moment where everyone was just like, fuck yeah. Like
It's funny. I remember saying this too when I first watched it, that like I haven't seen a movie where they just straight up execute the villain. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Because normally it's like they're gonna spare him, but then he forces them to shoot him or something like that.
Yeah.
But in this case, he was there defenseless, and they're like, "Yeah, just shoot him."
Oh,
I
yeah.
think the only time I've seen that done is maybe like Deadpool or something.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
It's this like really beautiful shot of like the bullet going through the gun, and you see it travel to Governor Scott. The blood spurts out from the other end of his body, and it splatters onto a sign that says "The sun will never set on the British
Yeah.
Empire." It's such a it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I remember talking to my friend about this, and I was telling him about, because he was just so laughing at how like, and he was not saying this as a criticism, to be clear,
Yeah.
but he was laughing at how like cartoonishly villain the British were in this movie.
Yeah.
And I made a joke to him. I was just like, well, yeah, in a lot of Indian movies, in the period pieces at least, the British are our version of how Nazis are used in movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Where like a lot of Indian period pieces, they're the easiest villains to hate.
Yeah.
Because it happened, you know what I mean? And so it's like they're used in that fashion as well, like the British, you know?
Yeah.
So how did this movie change you?
I think the value of asking a friend for help is one big thing I took. At least for me, like I think particularly towards the end when Beam comes out and just fucking uses his bare hands to pull off the cage. I think for me personally that I suffer in silence a lot. You know what I mean? I think you know that about me, that I kind of keep my own shit to myself a lot. And I think there is a value in kind of opening yourself up, opening your heart up a little bit, and just knowing that like you can get through something with someone else. You know what I mean? You can get through you can achieve your goals. You can do anything, when you have a valued friend.
Okay, just want to make sure we were on that, because if we missed that, I'd be so pissed. That was so good.
A moment was good when you lean in front of the camera. Like, did we get that?
It just shut off, by the way. That's really.
This one's still rolling.
That's so funny.
What the fuck? Why did it shut off?
Okay. Anyways,
we are back.
We're back. Cool. So I'm gonna talk about how this movie changed me. I wrote kind of more of like a broad how it changed how I look at movies. So I had to write it down just to keep my thoughts concise, It's a reminder that movies can still be a place where you can experience the extraordinary. It's easy to be cynical about the industry and feel as though we've done it all, but every now and then a filmmaker can come along, lift the art form to a new pedestal, and even cross the language barrier. It's inspiring to see work like this not only getting made, but also getting seen.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. It's always nice to see an art form get elevated and be reminded that, no, movies are pretty fucking cool and they can be amazing,
And you can go to them to see something you've never seen before, and the fact that it can still happen in 2022 when there's all this doom trolling online about just movies are dead, but every now and then you can get something like this and be like, shit, man, humans can still make something like this.
I know, dude.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for supporting us on our Patreon. We appreciate you again and again. Last but not least, stay nice, dudes.